Testing, 1, 2, 3.
For the sheer scope of grief and wasted human potential, we have a moral obligation to understand the ultimate reasons why we destroy one another.
Hi guys, I'm Podcast J. Most of you know me through J, but I use the word Podcast J because SEO is important, which is search engine optimization. Welcome back to my podcast. I have decided to reinvent the podcast this year and call it Burn My Mood. I come up with this name a long time ago. I'll dive into that another day, but I think it's a cool, catchy name. If you don't remember it, you'll remember it when you want to listen to someone because you get anxiety and stressed and you think, oh, let me just listen to someone who has such a dramatic life that might make me feel better about myself, and that's me. I will be introducing a brand new series which is full of guests, which is exactly what I wanted to do in the first place, but everyone was like at the time, who does podcasts? What's a podcast? So now I finally got the courage and confidence to invite people that are way beyond who I was trying to invite on in the first place. I've actually exceeded my own expectations. But anyway, I don't know if me holding this is going to cause some damage. Also, the camera's only on 2 bars because I didn't charge it because I was impulsive and I was like, let's just do it now. Sorry, I'm such a fast talker because I'm nervous. So I have been recording multiple podcast episodes for the last 6 months. Well, since December, January. I'm going to dive into it in a second as to why I stopped and restarted. I guess you've got to fail to succeed multiple times, so we'll probably fail this as well, but who cares? This is just something that I feel like I could actually be good at because I love talking and it's the only thing I'm pretty good at. I feel like I have this gift, and sometimes it's a blessing and a curse. Like, I have this gift, and I'm not trying to say this as like an egotistical narcissist. I have this gift where people feel comfortable talking to me, even if they're like a total stranger. Like, I will meet people. I will meet people, and like on the first day, I will know some of their deepest, darkest secrets. And that's not to say that I'm a sharer. I'm the furthest thing from it. I think people just feed off my energy, because I've got no energy, so someone must be taking it. I'm not in a negative way, but like, I feel like I can give really good advice because I've probably been through something like that. I don't want to be like, oh, I've been through that, because no one's situation is exactly the same. But yeah, there's like so many reasons how I even thought about getting into this. A lot of people actually like encouraged me. Like, when my partner and I were just friends, he used to say it to me all the time, like, you should do podcasts. And I was like, what the fuck is a podcast? Yeah. And then I started listening to him. And I actually, who was it? I can't remember if it was my first or second. I think it was my first. So the first podcast I ever listened to was, I think Alex had shown me like a few of Joe Rogan's podcasts, and I find them so interesting because I am so open. A little bit of a conspiracy theorist, many may say. Is it conspiracy or is it true? But anyway, we're not going to dive into that anytime soon, because I feel like this whole cancel culture stuff, by the way, I go off tangent like a million times. If you've already listened to my previous episodes, I didn't mean to hit the mic, I'm so sorry. You'll know that I will change topic in the same sentence about 7 times. But that's just who I am. I can't stick to the same topic because basically, am I all right? Honestly, I don't know where I even got off. But yeah, so I will tell a story and share an experience, but I like people to get the whole feel of it, like the whole atmosphere. So I have to tell the full story, otherwise people don't understand it from my point of view. I want people to think that I'm not being unreasonable, so I add everything into consideration. And I think that's why people like telling me stuff, because when they tell me it, I ask the right questions. Like, I'm better at it in private, I think. I'm going to get used to it on camera. I would never in my life think that I wanted to put videos of myself on the internet talking like this. I'm literally wearing what I slept in. I haven't brushed my hair. I literally brushed my teeth and put moisturiser on for the sake of being filmed. So many will say you should doll up and do your makeup, and I would love to be that person. But when I'm recording by myself, screw that. No, I'm not doing that. I'm not even recording in the podcast room. I'm recording in my bedroom. So, yeah. So let's try and go back to the start, because I don't know how we got into that. As many of you may know, I stopped doing my podcast like very abruptly, like I didn't even say bye or anything. So last May, I stopped doing my podcast. I'm not usually a quitter, but sometimes you just have to take time for things in life that you have to deal with. And I can deal with a hell of a lot of trauma, a hell of a lot of challenges, battles, like honestly, you name it. There's a high chance I have either been through that or been through something similar. Don't know how. I don't know why. I feel like, have you ever seen the film Series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket? It is such a good film, but that's how I describe my life. Not like the film, but as a series of unfortunate events. I also have a series of very fortunate events, but there's a balance. And I would say the unfortunate is so dramatic, sometimes it outweighs the fortunate. But, you know, we all go through that sort of stuff. But, like, when I tell you stories over time, you're actually going to think I make it up. Like, I honestly am convinced, like, when people ask me what's going on and I tell them, I feel like I'm lying. Like, I feel like I'm making it up, but I'm not. That's how dramatic some of these things are. But if you want to hear more of that stuff, let me know. I'll probably just chuck it in there anyway, because I actually don't really care what people think. I think that's also why I dived into this, because I think there's so many things that happen in life that really get you, and like cause insecurities and anxiety and stuff like that. And I never really feel like I care what people think about me that much. Like, obviously everyone does to an extent, but like my biggest advice is don't care what people think about you, because they're more worried about themselves than they are you. Like, I'm more insecure about certain things. I can't really think of them off the top of my head, but otherwise I would list them. But you'll just learn over time, because I'm so transparent. Like, I haven't really got it in me to lie. Like, if I don't want to say something, I'll just be like, I'm not comfortable saying that, or they told me not to say, or whatever. But everything about myself, I'm like open, which is a challenge if you're new to dating like I am. Like, I've never really had stable dating or any sort of stable relationship. And now that I'm in quite a long-term relationship, I've been with my partner for, I don't know, we lived together for like 6-7 months before we actually started dating. Actually, we lived together for nearly a year before we started dating. So yeah, we have a beautiful little love story. But I couldn't tell you how long we've been together. I'd say it's near, is it 2 years? I don't know. So we like connected really close as friends in 2020, which is like when the pubs were like had loads of rules at the end of COVID. I think it was August that me and Alex like reconnected and started becoming really close friends, because we've always known each other and always like had chats and stuff like that, because from where I'm from, there's a village right next to where I live, and that's what school I went to, and like everyone gets on with everyone. The friendship group there is huge. It's like the whole bloody village, and basically we've always had the same friends. We've always had very similar friendship groups. Like, we've got a lot of mutuals between us, and then like we talk every now and again, but we weren't really like as close as we were. And then because of COVID, I become like a serious alcoholic. Like, it was bad, and it was because I had quit smoking weed at the beginning of COVID. And then if you've listened to my previous podcast episodes, you'll sort of understand a bit more what was going on. But I actually experienced a serious panic disorder. And it wasn't like diagnosed, it was just suggested by the doctors, but the health anxiety is the main component of it. So the only thing I've ever actually been diagnosed with is OCD, and I suffer really bad with health anxiety because of that. And that sort of all started, like, I'm a massive hypochondriac, and being told that the first time by Alex, I was livid. But basically, I'm just giving a recap, by the way, to anyone who has never listened before, because I thought, now I'm doing it on video, it'll probably be on more platforms like YouTube and that. Anyway, back to what I was saying. And what was I saying? Anyway, so we become best friends. We spent so much time together. Like, lucky for me, I've always lived on my own. So in COVID, it was a lot easier for me to do things and me to see people, because I could, I wasn't putting anyone at risk. I live on my own. So if anyone come to see me or spend time with me, I didn't really feel like I was doing something wrong. Obviously, we all broke a little bit of the boundaries, but turns out it was all a big facade anyway. Because, now we're still living amongst it, and we still have crippling NHS issues, so that's grand. But anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, so then Alex and I started dating about a year later. And then I am a big old-fashioned style girl. So for me, I have like rules in my head and trauma to get over. And I was just like, I'm not ready to date, blah, blah, blah. It was a big thing. So I was just like, if I'm going to give this a go, we need to date first. I don't want to be in a relationship. Like, I want to do it properly, like go on dates, spend time together. Because of COVID and the way the rules were, I was doing things quite backwards. So, like, unintentionally, we were living together for, like, nearly a year before we were actually in a relationship. We were dating for half of that time, but, like we did everything together. It's just there weren't no, like, official label on things. And then it just got to a point where we were like, well, we may as well say we're dating now, because we are. Like, we were in a full-on relationship. We just didn't put a label on it, which I think is quite a beautiful thing. Like, I don't know. I like it. But it's just not what I had planned in my head. Like, when you're single and you're, like, part of the I Hate Men club, you sort of decide, like, this is what my boundaries are going to be for. It's like, I used to be like, there's a 10-date rule. There's, like, I'm not sleeping with someone on the first date. And now I think you should try before you buy. Let's be real. Because what if it's whack? You've had 10 dates, fell in love with a guy, and he's shit, and you're like, oh no. So, to be honest, revoke that rule. Unless you're meeting up with a total stranger, I guess. Do what works for you. It doesn't really matter. I don't know how I got so in depth about this. But yeah, so we started dating. We've been living together for X amount of time. And then in May, that's where I was, for God's sake. So I was trying to say, well, I stopped doing this, and I started talking about my whole last relationship. My relationship is not my personality. This is the thing, I have serious identity problems. So you guys are going to know me before I do. Like, I'm so sure of it. Like, I don't even know myself very well. And that's something I have therapy for. But anyway, have therapy. I really recommend it. And if you don't like him, you can just change him. It's great. But yeah, so in May, sorry, I'm going to turn a bit dark now. I was doing my podcast, and I started it as like, I'm going to be interviewing these people. This is my plan. This is my vision. I'm really fortunate. I'm surrounded by millions of creative people that inspire me. And that's totally different to like 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago, where I've only ever kept the same friends because I'm insecure about losing friends. Like, to me, friends are so close, they're like family, and I never really used to allow other people to come into my life and be part of my close circle. But now I'm very different. I'm changed. I'm grown. I'm mature. Blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so there's so many like if, buts, yeah, likes, maybes, isn't there? Sorry in advance. I'll get used to this, all right? I'm not as bad at this on the podcast when I do the interviews. But yeah. So I just did it again. So I know it's been a year since I recorded a solo episode, and the last time I recorded an episode, I don't know what it was, but it was like I like truly feel connected to energies and stuff, and you know, I would love to understand the world of spirits, crystals and all that stuff, but I just don't. I just believe in energy and that it's there, and I think truly believe from my point of view that that is how things like religion and stuff originated, because something is there. I'm not personally religious, but I know something is there, and everything is down to energies and stuff. I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I know there's something, all right? And I feel like everything's a sign and all that stuff. So in May last year, when I last published my episode, I used to record literally a couple of days before, cut out my coughs and that, and upload it. And I recorded this episode, right? And I absolutely hated it. Like the last couple of episodes, I just felt like I was losing my mojo. I was putting too much pressure on myself to do it every week. So I'm not going to do that now. I aim to do it regularly, but more like a series. So I will upload them, and then if I can't do any stuff, I'll do like a mini episode where I'm just like, well, this is my aim. I don't necessarily follow through with it, but I'll try to. It depends how well it does and how busy I am. You know, life is more important than the internet. But it depends, you know, if people like this stuff, then it's going to motivate me to do it more, you know? So I had recorded this episode and I was totally losing my mojo. I wasn't really enjoying the last episode that I'd recorded, and it actually made me cry. Like I was so upset about it, and I'm not really a big crier. Like the amount of times I cry, I probably mentioned on this. And it just really was getting to me, and I don't know why, and just life was becoming really overwhelming, because at that point in time, last May, was it last May? Or was it the May before? I think it was last May. Yeah, it was. And so life was just becoming so overwhelming, because my life and my partner's life especially just basically turned upside down. Like in a good way, but it's a bloody shock. So my partner is a very successful music producer, and he got signed to a label, and when he got signed, they were like, yep, you're doing a show next week. And he was like, oh, okay. Did loads of shows, and then because everything was doing really well, his track Ballin' started doing so well. Like it went viral, it got into the charts, like it was doing so good, which is really unusual for my circle of friends, because I've never heard of anything like that in my life, and none of my friends at the time were really that creative. Like we all have pretty normal jobs, but at the time he was doing so well that life just basically sped up even more. Like I am a very busy person. I don't like doing nothing, and now I take all of that back. I love doing nothing. If I could just spend a couple of days doing fuck all, that would be grand. Anyway, so, and he would say exactly the same, I think. But yeah, so I need some water. Also, I got this off TikTok Shop. I'll make a whole episode about TikTok soon. I got this off TikTok Shop, right? And I actually drink this much water now. Can you believe that? Like nearly tripled my water intake. It's like when you have a handbag and you get a big bag because you're like, oh, I've got a lot of stuff, I need to fit it all in. So you fill that bag and then you just keep getting bigger bags. So now I have a small bag and I just cram it all so I don't add more shit. Anyway, that's my story. like I've said again, if you've listened to the last episodes, don't knock them, because I'm doing this by myself. Like, no one is recording for me, sorting all of this equipment out. Like, Alex has helped me, teach me everything, all that jazz, but I am learning it all by myself. And, you know, maybe if I'm successful enough and eventually do well, I can hire a team. Like, for my interview series where I interview guests who I find inspiring and creative and feel like they should get their voice out there, I have now asked one of my friends, Becca, to help me with that. So hopefully if it does well, we can quit our jobs. But anyway, oh, why am I like this? But yeah, back to the story, because I'm such a train wreck. Okay, so his career just went wild, and at the time it was really hard to get used to, because the shows weren't like multiple a weekend at the time, whereas when it got to around that time period, that's when he was going international. Like, literally a week after I didn't put an episode out, we went to Barcelona, and then because he had some shows there, and then he's had multiple shows abroad, like so many international shows, multiple shows every weekend. And I choose to do the drive-in just because at the time, and still now really, I prefer driving. I get travel sick and I want to be there. Like, I want to support him. I don't know why I think so deep into things, but I always think to myself, oh, if I had a child, not to say he's my child, I'm just trying to compare it. If I had a child and they were doing like all these amazing things, I would want to be there and support them. And when I go, there's certain reasons as to why I prove that point. Like, even if it's just to, like, I don't know, get him a bottle of water, or if he looks over to me and goes, is everything good? Like, because he's getting in his head or whatever. And it's just like, yeah, you're fucking doing great. Don't be a silly twat. But yeah, there's like multiple reasons for it. And I am his biggest fan. I don't care what any of you say. Well, he appreciates you all and I appreciate you all, but I am the biggest fan. I was here first. So, yeah, but we'll dive into that one day when I try and get him on the podcast. So, now this is where it gets sad. I don't know how I just keep going so deep into things. This is what I'm trying to say. Like, when I talk by myself, honestly, talking so much dries your mouth out. What a wrong one. Why'd I do that? I was going to do a separate episode, but I'm just going to talk because I'm going to try and cram as much in as I can and then upload it as I please. I might just not even edit it, because why not just try and be transparent where I'm by myself? So last May, I got a phone call. Literally, it was so weird as well. It was literally like a day after I decided not to upload this episode because I just didn't like it. And I got a call from a friend of mine saying, your friend, I don't know if it's right to mention their names or not because I don't want to be insensitive. Obviously, it is my own experience, I guess. So I got a call from my friend, and he was like, have you heard about Lucy? And I was like, this is a really close friend of mine. So we started working together when we were like 16. I met her when I worked at Monsoon Accessorize. And I think she's probably one of the only friends I've never fell out with, apart from when we fell out. I don't know if I'm really ready to talk about it, but I'm going to try. So I got a call saying, have I heard about her? She's really unwell in hospital. And she did keep having a reoccurring health issue. But I don't feel like it was such an alert because she never really spoke about how bad it was. Like, she was in hospital a few times, but she always pulled through and always seemed like her healthiest, happiest self around us, especially me. And she was one of those friends that would, you know, like, I don't know if anyone really has any of these friends, but I know there's going to be a handful of people that do. But I feel like she was always that person that just messaged at the right time. Like, she would always message, like, how are things going? How are you doing? And I'd always feel bad, like, why have I not done that? Like, so I would try and make that effort back, because I'd be like, I appreciate that more than you know. Like, on days that I'm good, on days that I'm bad, like, sometimes you just need someone to be like, girl, are you good? Like, and that's something that I feel like, even though it might not seem like, I don't know if I'm wording it the right way, but it might not seem like a big thing to most people, but to me it was fucking massive. Like, I appreciated it so much, and I always reminded her of that, like, how kind and thankful I found it that she would reach out always at the right time as well. It's so strange. Camera cut out. Okay, so back to the story. So yeah, I got a call that my friend was really unwell, and I had really strong mixed emotions about it, because within a year, we'd never fallen out prior either, but within a year, there was a small disagreement, argument sort of thing. We weren't like having a row or whatever. I just felt a certain way about something, and truthfully, I would still feel that way about it now. I just probably would have handled it differently. But yeah, that's why I felt so mixed emotions and guilty and stuff, because I felt like I'd left it too long to rekindle things and regrow our friendship. You know, we weren't on any bad blood or not civil or anything. Like, everything was fine, but just because I felt so guilty about it, I thought it wasn't fine, because it didn't feel right, because we weren't on the best terms. Like, we used to spend a lot of time together, we used to talk all the time, and for that to change because of this thing that happened in like recent years, so like we had like 8 years of friendship, and then it all sort of changed. Then within a couple of days, I think it was literally the next day, maybe the day after, I got a call saying that she'd passed away. And I don't really know, when someone passes away and they're the same age as you, so we're 24, when someone passes away that is your age, it is so strange. And I know how difficult other people find grief, but I've never truly experienced that at this point in time. Like, I remember when we lost my uncle when I was only 17, and my way of dealing with things is just to help people and be there for them, because I just feel like in chaos and stressful times, that is where I tend to deal with things the best. You know, I don't deal with everything the best. Like, I didn't deal with losing Lucy the best, but it was the best I could have dealt with it. And when my uncle passed, like, you know, I knew that my cousin was going to lose the house, so I took on another job, moved in with her, and helped her pay the rent and stuff. But that's a story for a different day, because that was also not the right choice. But I didn't really connect with my uncle through my teenage years. Like, I would say the beginning half of my teenage years, that I would always see him, say hello and stuff like that. And he is a beautiful person. He kept our family together. Like, he was literally the last string of our family. That was sort of keeping all the cousins and that together. And then when we lost him, it really did damage that relationship, because we don't really see any of our family now. I mean, I don't really see any of my family. Sometimes I see my mum, and sometimes I see my sisters and my brother, but not very often. Like, I just have a different idea of family, and I've grown up very differently. So this is how I turned out. And so when we lost my uncle, like, it was really sad and it was a huge shock, but at the same time, he'd been battling cancer for a really long time. He'd got over it multiple times. And he was a great man, and, you know, it was beautiful, but like most of the people there I didn't know, because I don't really know his side of the family, because he was actually married to my cousin's mum, obviously, and she is who we're blood related to, unfortunately. But he was the glue to the family. So that was difficult. But in that time, I just took on work to help my cousin out as much as I could. And, you know, I learnt my lesson from that. But that's just how I dealt with things. And I know my mum found it really difficult because he was the closest person to her as family. But for me, I never really experienced grief, and a lot of people that I know who have or go through grief, it's usually a grandparent, and I don't have any of those. I've never had grandparents. I mean, I sort of like took on a grandparent from my brother and sister's dad, but they basically disowned me when I was like 12 because I didn't want to see their nasty child ever again, which I did, by the way, but that's a story for another day. Hang on, what? Yeah, so going through that was a very weird time, and I don't like to, I think my brain just can't convince myself that people have died. Like, honestly, my grief is so strange, and I don't know how to deal with it. And I spoke to my therapist about it, and I'm just not getting the answers, you know, like I'm not getting the proper process, and I feel like I need. So I just try and do things that work for me, you know, as we all do. Like for Lucy, there was a beautiful send-off. It was at the MK Dons Stadium, which is where she worked. It was her dream job. Can you believe this girl literally like accomplished like so many of her dreams at only 24? She had her dream job and everything, and you're like, all right, well, I'm jealous. I wish that was me. But she was just such a beautiful, amazing person. And I think the first thing about grief for me, and I'm only going to talk about it because I feel guilty about it. I feel guilty about the anger. So I get angry, and I'm not necessarily an angry person. Like, I get angry because certain things don't make sense to me. And I know it's not fair to voice these things, but I just feel like people might relate because I've never heard anybody really talk about it. But the first thing that was really strange for me is that when I was told, like when the news was broken to me, it was a very like hush hush thing. Like, it was try not go and tell everyone yet. The family are not ready to vocalize it. Obviously they're not. No one's ready for it. So, you know, I thought, okay, well, there's only one person that I have to tell. Like, that we were a trio, we're best friends. I know she don't know because she don't have Facebook. So if anyone was going to reach out to her, it would have been me. And like, the fact that she wasn't told by anyone is fucking difficult. Like, it's not very nice at all. Like, you know, when you're that close to someone, you sort of expect to hear these things, but how can you when you've just lost that person? You don't want to talk to anyone. You don't want to be like, oh, this person needs to know, this person needs to know. But truthfully, it's just the way these things work. Like, it's weird. There's no right or wrong way to deal with these things. But all I knew is that I was told, look, this isn't something the family are ready to share. So please keep it quiet. Basically saying, don't post it on Facebook. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't post about it. Don't tell everyone about it because they're not ready for that thing yet. They're not ready to address everyone like, we've lost our daughter. Which is completely fair enough. Like, obviously. And I hope that I hope it's respected amongst anybody who watches this and sees that, you know, someone they've lost. I hope you are respected for what you wish at that time. But yeah, the anger for me, I didn't believe it. I was just in shock, and I think that's what most people experience first, is shock. Like, people don't really know how to deal with it. It feels weird, it feels uncomfortable, and so when I was told, so Alex had a show in Barcelona. He had 2 shows in Barcelona like 2 days later. Literally, I had a day, so I got found out in the night. I had to work, and then the next morning I was getting on a plane at 7 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was. So I had one day to go tell my best friend, and knowing that you're going to turn up to your best friend's house and break her heart is something I don't wish upon anybody. And it was really difficult because we're both riddled with anxiety, so I didn't want to worry her or upset her. I was just like, are you home? I need to talk to you about something. She was like, oh my God, what? Tell me now, as your best friend does. And I just thought, I can't tell her this over message. Like, she can't be alone. She can't be working. Like, I need to go to her and talk to her. And so I was just like, oh no, I just need to talk about something personal for me. Like, I tried to make it about myself so that she didn't worry about it. And yeah, so then I went to see her and I couldn't even look her in the eye. She's like telling me, oh, me and my boyfriend broke up. I'm like, oh my God, this is getting worse. Because now she's already like, knock a girl when she's down. And yeah, that was really, really difficult. And then literally within, obviously, I'm not going to go into depth about that, but within an hour of telling her, this is what got me to the angry stage. And I've learned recently that obviously I just go through it this way. But what made me angry, right, was within an hour of telling her, and there's tears, there's stories, there's all these questions and denial, and like honestly convinced that I was wrong. Like she was convinced I was wrong. Like she literally had just spoke to her days ago, and that's what was really upsetting. But anyway, within an hour, it was plastered all over Facebook. And I'm not talking like, because she doesn't have Facebook. I literally had told her, I think she was on the phone for a second, or no. My phone started blowing up like an hour later. Like, my phone was non-stop. Have you heard? Do you know? Are you okay? Blah, blah, blah. And I think getting a message when something like that has happened is nice, but of so many people is so overwhelming. And I just think that, I don't know if there's a right or wrong way. Like, I can't give advice on that, but I know at that point in time it was the wrong time, just because I had just told my best friend, broke her heart, shattered it to pieces, to the point that I didn't even want to leave her there by herself. I had to ring her best mate and was like, please, like, I need you to come here because I need to go to bed. I've got a flight at like 6 a.m. So I like could not leave her by herself because I felt so guilty for just turning up, breaking her heart, and it's not a nice feeling. So yeah, my experience of anger come from when it went on Facebook, and people who did not have that connection with her that you have. Like, I know it's a selfish thing to say it like that, but when you have a connection with someone, you understand them, you know what they like, you know what they prefer, what they want, etc. And I know for a fact this girl did not want pictures of her drunk on Facebook from 5 years ago, and you claiming that you were best mates when we know that's not the case. And obviously I would go in more depth about it, but I don't really want to be that insensitive. But that's where my anger came from, because her family didn't even announce it or nothing. And you tried to be the first person because you'd got a message going, oh, I'm so sorry, like, I miss you and all this. And I'm thinking, okay, I get that that's how you're dealing with grief, but like, the family haven't even announced it. I just found it really disrespectful. And I think in this day and age, it is really strange that we put things on Facebook and stuff like that. But in this day and age, that is how we tend to share things, share beautiful memories and stuff like that. And when you think 10 years ago, this would just be so wrong. Like, this would be so not right. But like when we lost her, I couldn't even post on Facebook straight away. I think I shared a picture. It wasn't straight away, but I think I just shared a picture with just a few words. And now I look back, I think, I wish I said so much more. Like, it was just because at the time that was the first person that I'd lost, who meant so much to me. And I was so confused, and I felt guilty because we weren't like as close as we were, because of that little tiff we had. And it is really sad because she was so close. Like, her and her best friend were pretty much like sisters, and she had this such beautiful, strong connection with her son, and it's just so sad to see that how many people it had affected. Like, I've never really been, like, when I went to my uncle's funeral, it was like very different. Like, it was very traditional, crematorium. It was very cold, and like, it's just a really strange atmosphere, and people were sharing like the noble, brave, like funny stories about him. And then the wake was just very gloomy, to say the least. And so I don't know, maybe it's just because I didn't really know many people there, because it was more family, and like, we're the outsiders of the family, we're like the scumbags, so no one really spoke to us, apart from my cousins, obviously, because we love them. And at Lucy's, it was so different because there was hundreds and thousands of people there, and it was like, you know, everyone at the stadium knew her, even like the MK Dons players play for that football team. I don't know football. And so that was really strange, and it was really strange to go through. And maybe I'm not ready to talk that in depth about it, so I don't know. But what I do know is that whole shock just sort of started this whole halt on the podcast, basically. And I'll probably do another episode or just talk more about it as we go on. But that was really strange, because I'd never gone through that before, and I've been through a lot of things in my life. I can deal with a lot, all right? And to go through something like that, I was like, well, this is new. Now we're back into shock and anger. So, yeah, I was really frustrated with these things because, you know, when you're like, oh, you didn't know her at all and stuff like that. And it's like, that's just my personal point of view. And it's not fair. It's very selfish, I think, to think that way. But I still feel it now. I do. And to be honest, I actually feel more in depth about it. But, you know, it's not fair because the more I talk about it, the more it's going to feel like I'm personally attacking someone or some people. And it's just like, you know, I'll just deal with that my own way. But yeah, so because of this, we went to Barcelona literally straight afterwards. Still sad. I think after I told my best friend about it, is when I come home and I just cried all night. I barely slept. Like, there's literally photos of me and Alex on a plane, and I look like I have had a serious allergic reaction. Like, my whole face is swollen, where I've obviously cried all night, because that's when it started feeling real, because I actually broke the news to her. And I honestly hope I never have to do that again. Like, I honestly pray to God that I never have to break someone's heart on purpose again, because that is fucking horrible. And yes, we went to Barcelona, and it was great. Like, honestly, I really enjoyed it. I've never been there before, and it's a stunning place. Like, I'm one of these people that believes in loads of weird stuff, basically. Well, to some people it's weird. And like, things like I find history really fascinating. So when we were in Barcelona, there's like this, I don't even know the name of it. I don't know. But there's like a famous building there. Did I just spit as I spoke? Ew. But it's bloody massive. Like, you wouldn't even believe how big it is. And is that unfocused? Oops. And you would not believe this building, but I highly recommend you go see it. You'll know what I'm talking about. Just Google Barcelona's famous building. Actually, I'll Google it. Well, I don't know if I can say that. I'm just going to pronounce it how I can read it. La Sagrada Familia. I think that's it. But it's huge, right? Massive. Now, look at it. It's still under scaffolding when we were there. But it's meant to take however many years to build. Like, it's not even finished. But if you see it, it's like the biggest cathedral. Is it a cathedral? It's an unfinished church in Catalonia, Spain, Barcelona. So, yeah, it's bloody massive, and I find that shit unbelievable. So seeing that was really cool. Seeing Alex do shows abroad was wicked. Like, trying new foods. Who knew I could eat so many bloody olives and patatas bravas in such a short space of time? Not me, but now I do. But yeah, so we had a villa and we stayed with loads of us, and it was such a good time. But like, there were certain things that we'd probably do differently. So I probably wouldn't stay 100 miles away, because that just costs so much in cabs for all of us. Like, I think we all had plans of like doing our own thing, and then like doing some things together, and then we all just did everything together, because sharing cabs and stuff like that just cost a lot less. And this is back in my bloated girl era, where I had damaged my body so much from alcohol that I'd grown into a gluten intolerance, so I couldn't eat gluten. So yeah, it took me probably about 6 months to a year to try and heal my gut, and it's nowhere near as bad now. Like, if I eat now, I bloat, but not really that bad. Like I did the other day, but I haven't for months. So I just avoid eating things like bread, gluten pasta and stuff like that. So yeah, I can eat smaller doses of it, but I just can't have loads of it. So at the time, looking back at the photos, I'm like, oh, that belly though, that belly. Oh, do you know what it is as well? Is I didn't put on weight. That was the thing. So I didn't put on weight, but I looked like 8 months pregnant. That's what it was like. And it was so painful when I would eat it. So anything with like, gluten is in everything. No one talks about that. Like, my best friend is lactose intolerant, and I was like, God, lactose is in everything. Gluten? Are you fucking kidding me? It's in fucking everything. It's like, literally, read the ingredients. Malt, which is vinegar, right? Malt contains gluten. Wheat, rye, barley contains gluten. So much stuff, but it doesn't say on it gluten. It says wheat, rye, barley, malt. There's so many things that contains gluten, and you're just like, okay, how the fuck do I change this around? So basically, the only way I could get around it was like gluten-free section in Tesco's. Seems really good. Morrison's has got a good section. I haven't found it in Aldi or Lidl though. But if you just read stuff, a lot of stuff doesn't contain gluten. Like, I would buy gluten-free stuff, and I would find the normal stuff that didn't even contain gluten, and I was like, okay, whatever, charge me £3 more just because it says it's free from. So yeah, I might talk about that more another day. So yeah, I was struggling with that. I was struggling with losing my friend, and I was struggling with how busy our lives got, because basically our lives just completely changed, and I'd only been working in the rental vehicle for film industries for about 3 months, not even that. So my whole life just basically turned a whole chapter and was like, have some of that, have some more stuff you need to learn how to deal with, so that you can, I don't know, become a guru or whatever it's called in the future. I don't know. And yeah, so those things were really difficult, and it might not seem like a good excuse, because it's not an excuse, it's a reason as to why I struggled to continue doing this work. And I just feel like I gave it a go, and I was like, okay, I like it, but now I need to do way more planning, need to do way more vision, because my problem is that I don't have a niche. That's the truth. I don't have a niche. I don't want to target just one group of people. I know that I can connect with so many people, and I can just sit here and talk forever, as long as my throat doesn't dry up and cause me physical pain. But yeah, I can literally talk for ages and I'm very open about things, but I felt like I owed a little bit of an explanation as to why I just stopped, because I get so many messages and it's so nice, but I get so many messages like, when are you doing another episode? When are you this? When are you that? And like, you'd be surprised. I get to see all my statistics. Like, I can't see who's listening, but I can see like what episodes are the most listened to, and I'm like, oh my God, I should do so much more in that subject or so much more in that subject. And at the time as well, like, there was no UK, well, I don't know if there was, but I couldn't find any of just UK leading a girls podcast. So I just thought I'll fill that gap. And then I wanted to do interviews, but I couldn't. So I just cracked on with doing it solo for the time being. And I was like, okay, well, I can do it. And then obviously all this stuff happened. And then, yeah, now there's loads of UK leading girl podcasts. And I'm very jealous because I feel like someone stole my idea, which they definitely didn't. But in my head, I'm like, someone stole my idea because this is my idea. I did it first. I just didn't do the interview part, but I had it all written down. And now I'm like, oh, well, I'm happy for them because now they're my icons. Like, I watch them online all the time. I'm on most views because I love watching it, but I'm just like, this is because I wanted to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I envy it. I am maybe a bit jealous. But I think it's a positive thing. Like, something I learned about jealousy is that I know I'm a very jealous person. And I think a lot of people try and deny that. Like, a lot of people are like, no, I'm not jealous. Not at all. No way, blah, blah. Look, there's nothing wrong with being jealous. It's just, if you deal with it in a negative way and be bitter and nasty and all these things, then it's a bad thing to be jealous. When I feel jealous, I just say, I'm like, oh, that makes me so jealous. Stress and anger's gone. The wind up sometimes comes back. What's wrong? I'm feeling jealous. You just honestly get in touch with your emotions, because you will feel so much better if you just admit how you feel. A lot of the time, you don't want solutions. You just want to say, I feel this. Sometimes people will be like, yeah, I get why you feel that. And sometimes when people ask why, and sometimes people will be like, oh, don't be jealous because you can do this. Or you're this, you're different in this way, you're that. So just admit that you're jealous. It's not a negative thing. If you're like nasty and bitter and stuff about that, then you need to work on that. But if you feel bitter about things or frustrated, do better. Like, be like, oh, well, I felt jealous, so I'm going to aim to do better than that. It's all positive things. So, sorry, I just vaped and it just got all smoky. So, yeah, back to what I've been actually up to in the last like year. So Alex's shows and his career and stuff has just gone chaotic, like wild. Like, it's been non-stop and it's been so exciting. Like, we've basically traveled the whole country. Like, we'll stay, because most of the time, because of the set times, like, he'll do an hour set or hour and a half sort of thing between like 11 p.m. and 4 a.m, sometimes 5 a.m. And these sets, because they're so late, we usually stay in a hotel, obviously, because it's so late, can't be driving back, tired. And sometimes he has multiple shows in a night, so like the next day we usually get to, like, as long as he hasn't got a show close the next day, we get to actually explore the town. And I've seen more places in like the past year than I have in my whole entire life. Like, I've always wanted to travel, and I just feel like I was really lucky to be able to like come along his journey and see all these beautiful places, do all these amazing things. And I never thought I'd be able to do all these things, because you don't realise how many things don't actually cost that much. Like, if at the time, obviously fuel is expensive, but if you're just driving up and down the country visiting places, truthfully, it's cheaper than a night out. Like, you literally fill your car up for what, like 60 quid or £100, depending on what size car you have. And then, yeah, you'll probably get there and back, couple places and back, and just get dinner or whatever. And it's actually a lot cheaper than you think. Because that's me. I don't really like spending loads of money because I don't have any. So obviously my partner, he likes to splash out and do these nice things, and I'm just like, let's just go for a walk. I like that, connecting with nature and stuff. But he does really like do a lot of nice things. Like he took me on a spa day last year, and oh my word, I literally was like, oh, I just need some face cream after swimming because my skin is going to break out. Like, I've got acne prone skin. And tell me how he ended up spending like hundreds of pounds on some skincare for us. Like, I love it, and I used all of it apart from the cleansing balm, because that's a massive pot, so I haven't finished that yet. But I want it, right? I fell in love with a product. I'm like, oh my God, I need this product again. Look at it, and it's so expensive. I'm like, I can't even justify it. So now I'm back to like Nivea, you know? But I change my skincare all the time because if you look, my skin, it's not focusing. I'm not very good with cameras, but like you can see where my skin actually is quite clear. Like I've got a few dots where spots are trying or have been, but it's probably the best it's been in a while. But yeah, this is the best my skin gets, truthfully. Whereas with the other stuff, it was like almost no spots. But anyway, beggars can't be choosers. Back to the normal things I can actually afford. But yeah, we've done some truly amazing things. I can't even list them all right now. I feel like I should do better planning for that. I'll try and save some of that for when I try and get him on the podcast as well. But the people that I have had on the pod for interviews are very creative people that I look up to and I find inspirational because they stick at something that they want to be successful at. And even if they fail, they just keep trying, they stick to their passion. And I feel like that is what people need to hear, because so many of us just want to find our calling, find our identity, and it's okay to try different things and try new paths. So this new series that I have created is to reintroduce the podcast. But obviously, disclaimer, I'm new to this. There is a handful of episodes that are not up to the best technical. They had technical difficulties, basically. So, like, the first episode was the worst because we had done most of the episode, like, well, not most of it, but, like, a huge chunk of the episode to find out that the wire wasn't connecting to the computer properly, so it kept cutting in and out, so you literally can't use it. And obviously Alex did his magic because he's good at all this stuff and tried to save it. He also had to do the same thing for another episode because my guest mic wasn't working, just because I'm not very good at all this stuff, but I'm learning, I'm getting a lot better. Like, if this does well, like if this sounds like it's supposed to, like the mic connects to the stuff and all that, then I've successfully got better at it. But I've learned that when I'm recording, it's very hard to keep an eye on everything else and make sure everything's going the way it's supposed to and all that stuff. And I don't really have like a plan for the episodes. I like to completely freestyle things because like I have a guideline when I have a guest. Like I have a list of questions for if one of us feels anxious or if I don't know, like say for instance a guest says I don't want to talk about this or I only want to talk about that, then I can have a guideline there. But most of the time goes totally off tangent because I just like to get to know people, and I feel like I ask questions to people that other people don't really ask. I just like to get to know people in that way because that's who I am. So maybe this is just like a massive personal diary, who knows? But I know for a fact this platform is going to be so powerful because once I start uploading all these episodes, you're going to see like all the exciting people I have on. You'll recognize a lot of people, and you'll be like, oh my God, what a good idea. I should go on that podcast and promote my stuff, because I won't charge you. I just want to have a chat. Like, you know, just come have a chat with me. I'm a very easy person to feel comfortable around. Don't know why. People just do. Everyone just feels comfortable around me. And I think it's just because I'm really not judgy. Like, I take everyone at face value. Like, if you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. If you respect me, I respect you. Like, turn up in your pajamas if you want. I'm hoping that on future episodes, so if any potential guest is watching this, you should bring your dog. Like, I want to stroke a dog, okay? Bring a dog, because I'm not allowed dogs. So yeah, bring a dog and bring a smile on your face, come with an open mind. And if you're just a listener, talk to me about what you want to talk about, what I should ask people. Because I'll bear all these things in mind. I've got thousands and thousands of questions written up, but I know a lot of people don't like certain things. Like, I would love to do like a series on conspiracies, but I avoid it because I don't want it to affect the people I interview, if that makes sense. Like, I believe a lot of things, but for the people I interview, it's bad for their image. I don't, like, they might not think it is, but I think it is. I think if you're in the public eye, being controversial is not as good as people make it out to be. Like, you can be controversial if you hone it in. You know what I mean? Unless you're a comedian, then set loose. But I think certain things, you can't be too controversial. Like, you can say you like something and that, but if you start talking about how deep I talk about things, you'll be like, probably some people will have strong opinions against it. So I wouldn't recommend such strong, controversial things. Maybe that's just because I've been a manager before, and I know what works in certain businesses, and also because of my, like, watching my partner grow through his industry, I've noticed from my own research as such that certain things are not good for business, you know? Gotta be realistic. But if you start the conversation and we have that conversation and you're happy and your agent's happy to upload it, then fine. But I won't upload anything without people's permission. I want everyone to feel comfortable, because consent is important, all right? That's how important it is. Consensual. But yeah, like, I don't know what I've covered because I have a memory of a goldfish when it comes to these podcast things. When I rewatch it, I'll be like, I've said that 50 times today. But yeah, so I did a podcast series full of guests. They're really inspiring. You must give them a watch. If the quality isn't great, I'm really sorry, but please make sure you go to, if you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube or whatever platform you listen to it on, because I put it on as many as I can so that everybody can listen on what they prefer to listen on. And if I'm not on the platform you prefer, what is it? So I can see if I can add it to it, put it in a comment or message me. It's probably easier to comment on things. And if you don't get a response, double message. I'm not shy. Like, I will happily double message, triple message people. Who cares? I don't care. If I miss it, it's because I'm busy. Like, I do a lot of driving. Like, I'm a full-time driver. So, like, if I don't see it, just do it again in, like, a couple of days at a different time of the day or the same time of the day. I really don't care that much. Don't feel ashamed. Like, don't feel like, oh my God, I can't double message and stuff like that. Just do it, because I probably just didn't see it or I haven't got round to it. And sometimes if I leave something so long, I'll be like, oh, they're not interested now, you know? So double message, I don't care. But yeah, please make sure you like, subscribe on the platform you listen on, or multiple, because the more interaction I get with this podcast, the more it will suggest it to other people. It will show it more. It will bring it up in results when people search for things. And if you share anything and put it on your story, tag me at podcast.j or at BurnMyMood, because then I can reshare it. It's good for promo. And if you go to the links and in any of my bios, like, I'll have a link tree in the comments or description or whatever you call it. In every episode, including this one, but I mean this more for the guest ones, I will have like credits where I tag whatever it is my guest wants to promote, their social medias, and then my Spotify, YouTube, and my link tree, which has basically all my social medias on it, and I even have cheeky playlists on there. So if you want to know what I listen to, because I have the best music taste, then go on there. Obviously I need to expand it because I'm more of a SoundCloud girl, but Spotify playlists are the one. So click on that, save it, click like and all that stuff. Also, if you're a TikTok person, like you love scrolling through TikTok, I don't know if you've seen my TikTok recently, but I actually went viral on one video. Not really relevant to the rest of my profile though, but it did get massive. And now I have now I can do get commission on TikTok Shop. So like people reach out to me and send me stuff because one video went viral. So they're like, we'll send you something. To be fair, I buy half of it, but only because I would never have bought anything off it before, because everyone told me you wait weeks for it, which is not true. Like everything I get usually comes within the week or the next week. Like that's the longest I've waited, I think, is like 2 weeks. Like you get everything pretty relatively quick. So yeah, I only promote the stuff that I think is good. I use all of it. Obviously there's certain things I can't use every day, like the dermapan roller, because if you use that every day you'll screw over your skin. I use that once a month. But if you go onto my TikTok page, there'll be like a showcase. Look at me just trying to sell you stuff. I should just do commercials. Advertisements. Buy this t-shirt. But yeah, I just thought I would I really wanted to get another introductory episode in with a video, because I need to learn how to upload it and all that jazz. And also because I wanted to give like a disclaimer, because the last few episodes I've done are basically my guest series, and because of so much that's happened in the last 6 months, would you believe it? Like, I'm not even talking about what I was talking about earlier, about losing a friend. I lost another one, right? And I went for a little medical procedure because apparently I'm not infertile. So yeah, that was a lot. And that's all happened within the last 6 months. Actually, it happened within 4 months. Yeah, so that's grand. But I'm not really ready to talk about them yet. I'll make a separate episode for them, because I wanted to do like a whole episode on going through that, because everything I googled was not on the internet. I actually went to hospital and they told me, oh, it's normal. So that was a shocker. And I'm back at therapy now. Yeah, but I'll do another episode, because I like doing the solo ones as well, because when I interview people, because I got so used to talking about myself, I was like, when I interview people, I don't like talking about myself. Do you know what I mean? It's not really the same. I like talking about them. So every now and again, I'll try and squeeze in a solo episode whenever I'm free. I won't give you exact dates and times, because I don't like letting people down and breaking promises and stuff. So I will aim to just upload regularly. Just stay tuned to my Instagram profile at podcast.j and at BurnMyMood. They're two separate ones. One's for me, the other one is for the podcast. So that basically when I put episodes out there, or when I need questions asked or any sort of interaction from you listeners, I have an idea of what's going on. You have an idea what's going on. You'll find out when the episodes are published. I've got someone on my team now. She is a really good friend of mine. Her name's Becca. So I'll get her on the podcast one day as well. Especially for my interview podcasts. So she's going to help me do a lot of the backstage stuff. I say backstage, behind the camera. That's it. BTS, behind the scenes. Get with the times, girl. So I need someone to keep an eye on stuff, because I'm sat here looking at the laptop like it's on the screensaver. Is it working? Is the mic lighting up? I don't know. Oopsie. Is the camera going to run out of battery again? I don't know. Yeah, it's easier to not stress about those things when you have someone there to keep an eye on it. Because that would be grand. And also, she's a really good friend of mine. I think she would do really well. She's a very creative gal, and I feel like out of all the people that I could have had on this podcast, she's probably someone that I felt confident to bring onto it. And you know, if we're successful, we can quit our jobs and I can start more podcasts, because I would love to have like a show where I have a co-host where we just talk. just me and that other person. But like, I actually asked my best friend, but she will not do it. And I'm telling you, one day I will get her on this podcast because she is batshit crazy. I fucking love her, and I wish people just heard about like the way she is, because just everyone deserves to have a Phoebe in their life. But yeah, so until then, I can't do that. But hopefully, once this one does really well, I can keep this one up. I'll be a full-time podcaster, because that's the only thing that really interests me, is just talking. Like, I don't really care the way I look on camera too much. Obviously, when I look at myself, I'm like, oh my good God, but I don't feel negatively affected. Like, I've never really had too much hate either. Like, I've had a couple of hate comments in my life that are like, you look like a man, and I'm like, oh, delete. You know how most people keep them up because it's good for views, but in the beginning I was a bit insecure about that, and then I was like, hang on a minute, I don't even care what people think. Like, I know I don't look that much like a man. I'm joking. But yeah, so thank you all for listening. Make sure you stay in touch with the socials, and I will upload as soon as I
The
can.
sheer scope of grief and wasted human potential. We have a moral obligation to understand the ultimate